Dear friends and followers, welcome to another video. This time we will be walking from Sangubashi Station, which is located on the west side of Yoyogi Park in central Tokyo. From there we will walk all the way to Shinjuku Station, the biggest train station in the entire world. And on our way there we will pass several iconic buildings, and we will also pass through Shinjuku Chuo Koen, which is one of the main parks in Shinjuku, located next to the city hall, or Tocho. So right now we are heading towards what I would argue is probably the most well-known hotel in all of Tokyo, and that is of course the Park Hyatt, made famous in the excellent movie Lost in Translation, directed by Sofia Coppola. That was actually one of many movies I watched even before I came here the first time. And once I arrived in Japan, it actually struck me how well that movie managed to capture the ambiance and the atmosphere of being in Tokyo, especially when you're jet lagged and new to the city, and everything is just different and somewhat confusing. So yeah, the street we are walking on right now is leading us there to the hotel, and right now we are walking through the westernmost part of the Yoyogi district. Those of you who have been to Tokyo are probably familiar with the Yoyogi Station on the Yamanote line, which is located between Shinjuku and Harajuku stations. And the street here on the right is, if you follow that street, you will end up at the Yoyogi Station. So it's a bit down there. And there in the distance you can also see the Docomo Tower building, which is one of the most iconic high-rise buildings in Tokyo, I would say. This area is actually mostly residential. It's a little bit further away from the main part of Shinjuku to be considered attractive for offices. So most of the buildings you see here both on the left and right side of the street that we are walking on are regular residential buildings. It is, I would say, an area that is on the expensive side of things because of its closer proximity to Shinjuku, which is of course one of the most important, or the most important public transportation hub in all of Tokyo. So now we are approaching the building that houses the Park Hyatt Hotel. It's this one, the high-rise that you can see in the middle of the frame right now. And Park Hyatt is located in the top part of this building. So that's where the famous film was recorded. And it's of course a hotel that's still in operation, and I'm pretty sure that they still to this day have countless people stopping by there just to see the place where that movie took place with their own eyes. But it's also a really gorgeous place to go for a late night drink. They have several bars in there, and the views from the top of that building is just amazing. What I like to do is I prefer to go there like half an hour or so before sunset, and then just see how the sun goes down and how the city of Tokyo slowly lights up far down below. That experience still gives me goosebumps to this day. But when the first time I saw it, it was just I can't describe it with words. It was just so amazing to finally experience this almost mythical city that I had heard so much about and read so much about, and then finally sitting up there by myself and see the city, which stretches out as far as you can see in all directions, and just see that slowly light up and come to life. That's just it's still amazes me to this day. There are of course many other places where you can have the same experience, but since I was such a big fan of the movie back then, it was just something special to be at that same bar and have that experience. I highly recommend it to anyone who likes that movie. It's definitely worth it. And actually the drinks there aren't even that expensive. Definitely give it a shot. One thing to be aware of though, if you plan on going, is that I think on most days they also have live music starting from maybe 8 o'clock, and if you are still at the bar at that time, they require you to pay a table charge. I'm not sure about this because it's probably been 2 years or so since my last visit there, so you should look it up on their website. But it's just something that could be good to know if you are planning to go there and if you have a somewhat tight budget. So now we are crossing Koshu-Kaido, which is one of the 5 historical post routes that led to Tokyo in the ancient times. These roads goes really far. I think this one goes all the way to Nagano Prefecture, and there's a bunch of these old historical roads, and if you are into Japanese history, I really recommend that you read up a little bit about these roads, because they're very interesting, and what's fascinating is that they're still in place, they're still in use. So it's actually pretty cool to think about that you can still follow and travel along the same routes as people were doing hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Now we are passing the base of the Shinjuku Park Tower, which is the same building as where Park Hyatt is located. The first couple of floors of this building are mainly made up by restaurants and shops, and then there's like 30 floors of office space, and then the top floors, floor 39 to 52, is where the hotel is located. And here to the right you can see a good example of what a pretty basic apartment building can look like in Japan. I'm guessing, but I'm not sure about this, but this looks like it could actually house some of the workers at Tokyo Gas, which are the owners of the Shinjuku Park Tower. So it could be like a dormitory for some of their employees. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. But it's quite common to have those kind of dormitories for company workers here in Japan. And here in the distance you are getting the first view of Tocho. That's the Tokyo City Hall, where the Tokyo mayor is carrying out her job. The mayor who got re-elected this weekend, by the way. And in the city hall, or in Tocho, you can also get a really nice bird's eye view of Tokyo. There's actually an observation deck on the top floor in one of these two towers, and the observation deck here is open for anyone, and you don't have to pay any entrance fee or anything. There's a nice little bar up there as well, not as nice as the one at Park Hyatt, but still kind of charming. We can have a drink. The only thing that I don't like about this place is that the main part of the observation deck is a souvenir store. Oh, and here we are getting another look at the Park Tower. Oh, I guess I changed my mind, and now we are walking into the park. Yeah, so the observation deck at Tocho is there's a pretty big and obnoxious souvenir shop in there with lots of annoying sounds, and these like crane games that makes sounds all the time. So that kind of ruins the atmosphere a little bit. It would have been so much nicer if it was just quiet and you could enjoy the view, but yeah, of course this is Japan, and that kind of annoying sounds that ruins pristine locations is unfortunately quite common here. And this park is also quite interesting actually, because it is located next to the Tokyo City Hall, but there's actually a big population of homeless people living in this park. And I'm not sure if they've cracked down on that in recent years, but it used to be that actually from the observation deck in the tower you could see this little village built by these homeless people in the park. Like they have their small homes built out of tarps and cardboard boxes, and you could actually get a bird's eye view of that little constellation from up there, which I found quite ironic. And I also know that they used to hand out like free food to the homeless people here. So sometimes if you pass this park really early in the morning, there can be like a massive line of people waiting to get this free food. And from what I've heard, the number of people queuing where free food is handed out has increased a lot now because of the corona crisis. So the fact that a lot of people lost their jobs or have no income right now means that a lot of people are actually impoverished again and need all the help they can get to feed themselves and their families. So that's a very tragic thing, but unfortunately it's nothing unique to Japan. It's happening everywhere. On a day like this park is really, really lovely to walk through. It looks like there's a bit of construction going on. I see a lot of these cones and sealed off areas. Maybe they were kind of shaping it up for the Olympics or something. I'm not really sure. And the building that you see here is also a part of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. But the one I was talking about before, where there's an observation deck, that's to the left of this one. And that's the Washington Hotel in the right side of the frame. So yeah, here is the main building of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and in the north tower there's the observation deck. I'm not sure, but I think most of the other floors in the buildings are off limits to visitors. It's just where the officials are doing their job. So other than base, like bottom floors and that observation deck, there's not so much to see in there. Here's one of these useful information maps. I always like taking a look at these. So it's actually a pretty big park, and I think it is a lot of it actually in use by people living around here. It's, people bring their kids here, and there's also a part of the park which is very popular for skateboarding. So it's a nice place to check out. Definitely worth checking out if you're around here. And here we have another one of these airplanes flying into Haneda. Having all these airplanes flying out over our heads is still very new to us here in Tokyo. So it's I still find it very fascinating. Ah, yeah, here you can see some of the skateboarders that I mentioned earlier. Skateboarding is actually banned in many parts of Tokyo, so yeah, I guess those who are into it, they really appreciate those patches of land where you're allowed to do it. But moving on towards the busier part of Shinjuku. So here we have again Tocho City Hall on the right side, and straight ahead this cocoon shaped tower is the Mode Gakuen, which is actually a school building. There's one of the top, I think, fashion schools, and also I think they also have like makeup, like you can study to become a makeup artist there. And here on this side we have some, I think it's mostly office buildings. And again, Park Hyatt there to the right, and then Tocho to the left. So from here we get a good view of Tocho again, and that's the towers with the observation decks on top. I think I made a mistake before. I said there was only one observation deck, but actually there's one in each tower. I don't know if it's always been like that or if that's something new, but yeah, there's two observatories right now. And another interesting fact is that this used to be the tallest building in Tokyo until 2007. But now there's, I believe, a handful of buildings who are taller than this. So I guess that's another testament to how quickly this city changes. I guess we should take this chance to orient ourselves again. I know that some of my followers are very fond of looking at maps and getting our bearings straight, so yeah, this is where we are right now. Another one of the Hyatt hotels in this area. There's a lot of hotels around here, obviously, because there's also a lot of offices and big government buildings. So yeah, if you are planning to visit Tokyo and consider staying somewhere around here, I would say it's not a bad choice. It's a little bit disconnected from where all the action is, so to speak. So if you want to stay right in the middle of everything, it's maybe not the best choice. But I mean, from here it's like a 10-minute walk to the busy part of Shinjuku, and around there you will find countless bars and restaurants and all the shopping facilities you'll ever need. So if you're fine with that walk, and maybe you even prefer to be a little bit disconnected from all that, then yeah, this is not a bad area. But it's a little bit boring, I'd say, especially at night. There's not really that much happening around here. So if that's good or bad, I guess that's really up to your personal preferences. Always love the perspective you get here. This perfectly straight road and just all the skyscrapers lining it. It's really cool. It's a good place for night photography for those of you who are into that. This entire district is, I mean, for photography it's really good, especially if you like long perspectives and leading lines, and also the fact that it's relatively empty makes it easy to get interesting shots. So yeah, that's one of the positive aspects of this area, I would say. This entire skyscraper district is actually quite interesting. It's the first skyscraper district in Tokyo, and most of these buildings here date back to the 1970s, or that's when the first high-rise buildings were constructed here. And actually this kind of urban landscape is relatively rare in Tokyo. Like, you have, of course, there's high-rise buildings almost everywhere in the city, but what makes this part of Tokyo kind of unique is that there's only high-rise buildings. There's hardly any low-rise buildings or residential buildings, but only this like entire big block of high-rise buildings only. And it's very obvious when you look at the Tokyo skyline from afar. You can see how all these Shinjuku skyscrapers are kind of clustered together in one tiny spot, and then the rest of the skyline is more like individual skyscrapers here and there. But yeah, it's just an interesting little aspect of the urban geography of Tokyo that I thought I should share with you. Another one. I must come across as like the worst airplane geek in the world, considering how often I turn the camera upwards just to capture an airplane. I'm having some technical difficulties with the camera right here, so I'm sorry for the weird perspective. I am not very drunk. In fact, I wasn't drunk at all when I filmed this, but yeah, sometimes the camera gets a life of its own and just does that to me. If any of you knows what can be causing it, let me know in the comments below. doesn't happen often, but yeah, every now and then it just decides that no, I want to shoot everything in a 45-degree angle for a while. Very weird. Now we are very close to the Cocoon Tower, the school I was talking about before. Actually, before this building was constructed, they held a competition for various architect firms all over the world, and the only requirement was that the building wasn't allowed to be rectangular. So that kind of explains the quite unique shape that we have, which really makes it stand out, I must say. Now we are actually approaching Shinjuku Station. The building you can see in the rear of this frame is actually part of, or it's one of the shopping malls that sits atop of Shinjuku Station. And already here you can take these stairs to the left here. If you take those stairs down, you will get to this underground plaza where there's a taxi stand and also a pathway to get to the station gates. We could cross there, but I think it's more fun to get a bit of a bird's eye view of the area, so let's take this pedestrian bridge up instead. Ah, another one. A lot of people are worried, like what if something falls down from one of these planes when it's flying over the city center of the most populated city on Earth. So far, no accidents, but let's keep our fingers crossed that it will stay that way. So here you can also see the Shinjuku bus terminal. And here is, let's see, once I am done looking around. Yeah, here's the Shinjuku, one of the big cameras in Shinjuku. As you probably know, Big Camera is one of the leading chains for home electronics and camera equipment in Japan. One thing that's really great about camera stores here in Japan is that you're always allowed to, try out the lenses on your own camera if you're bringing it with you. So if you are planning to get some new lens or something and you want to try it out first, then yeah, just go and have a go with it in a shop, and then you can study the results in detail when you're back at home or in your hotel room, and then you can make up your mind and maybe look up where to buy it for the best price. So here we have the Shinjuku Station. So that's the entrance for the Keio lines and the Odakyu lines on this side of the station, but you can also access the JR lines, of course. JR is the main train operator in Japan. So there's also several subway lines that stop at this station. This is also a nice location for night photography in Tokyo. This pedestrian bridge, you get a really nice background cityscape. It's very good for portraits. One final look at the skyline over here before taking this escalator down back to ground level, and yeah, once we get to the station I will wrap up this video. So I hope it's been informative, and I hope that I've managed to show a part of Shinjuku that is maybe not on the radar for everybody. Most people tend to explore the eastern side of Shinjuku, and for good reasons. That's where most of the interesting entertainment and shopping facilities are. But yeah, I think this west side of Shinjuku is quite interesting as well, especially due to its unique urban geography and the fact that it's where this massive city of Tokyo is actually managed. That makes it kind of unique in its own way, I guess. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you so much for all the kind words you are sending through the comments. I read all the comments you're sending, so I'm very happy about them, even though maybe I'm not able to respond personally to all of them anymore because it's just too many of them. But if you have any feedback, or if you have any suggestions on what I can do to improve these videos, please let me know. And if there's any specific area you want to see, let me know, and I will do my best to make it happen in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.